Everyone said she was broken. An Omega cursed by the moon goddess herself, rejected 3 times, declared infertile, and cast out like she didn't deserve to breathe the same air as the alphas who shamed her. But destiny doesn't forget its chosen. Because the same barren woman they mocked would one day give birth to the first twin alphas the world had seen in 200 years, one born of fire, the other born of shadow. And their birth wouldn't just rewrite the laws of power. It would ignite a war between prophecy, love, and fate itself. This is the story of Lyra Vale, the rejected Omega who became the moon's chosen queen, and the mother of legends. So sit tight, turn up your volume, and let me tell you how it all began. Before we dive in, tell me, where are you watching from right now? I love seeing where everyone's tuning in from. The palace floors were cold beneath Lyra Vale's knees. Her hands moved in small, tired circles, scrubbing the same stone until it shone. She did this every night alone, unseen, unheard. That was how she liked it. For 2 years, she had survived inside the royal palace by pretending to be invisible. Her silver hair was always tied tight under a servant's scarf, her scent hidden behind thick layers of suppressor herbs that made her smell like a low-ranking beater. No one ever guessed she was an Omega. No one ever looked twice. That was the point. Because every time someone looked too closely, she lost everything. Lyra's heart still carried the scars of 3 rejections. 3 different alphas had looked at her, felt the mate bond spark between them and turned away in disgust. "You smell wrong," they had said. "Your scent is heavy, broken. You can't bear pups. You're useless to me." Those words had carved themselves deep into her soul. After the last rejection, she had run from her pack and hidden here, where no one knew her name or her past. Now, she was just another servant cleaning the palace halls. That was safer than being an Omega no alpha wanted. That evening, the corridors hummed with excitement. The palace buzzed with whispers and laughter because tonight was the Alpha King's feast, a grand celebration for King Darius Kale's 30th birthday. Unmated females from every pack had come, dressed in silk and jewels, hoping to be chosen as his mate. Lyra heard them gossiping in the servant quarters. "They say the king still hasn't found his Luna after 5 years. Maybe the moon goddess cursed him. No, he's just waiting for someone worthy. I'd give anything for him to look at me once." Lyra smiled faintly but said nothing. Love was a luxury for others, not for her. Lyra called one of the older maids, Myra. "The feast begins in 10 minutes. Bring the wine trays to the great hall." Lyra rose, wiped her hands on her apron, and checked the small pouch tied around her waist. Inside were the herbal suppressor beads she took every morning and night. They dulled her scent completely. But when she touched them, she frowned. The beads felt dry and crumbly old. She hadn't been able to afford new ones. "It'll last one more night," she told herself. Just one more. She tied her scarf tighter and hurried to the great hall. The hall glowed with hundreds of candles, gold light flickering on marble columns and crystal chandeliers. Musicians played soft music while servants rushed to and fro with trays of food and drink. At the head table sat Alpha King Darius Kale, broad-shouldered, golden-haired, eyes the color of molten amber. Even from across the hall, Lyra felt the power rolling off him like heat. His presence commanded the entire room. He looked bored. Beautiful women paraded before him, alphas, betas, omegas, each trying to catch his attention. He smiled politely, spoke a few words, then looked away again. "Poor king," one servant whispered beside Lyra. 5 years of searching, and still no mate. "Maybe the moon goddess forgot him," another joked. Lyra said nothing. She balanced her tray and moved through the crowd, keeping her head down. Her only goal was to stay invisible. But fate had other plans. A clumsy noble turned suddenly and crashed into her. The impact sent her tray flying, goblets shattered, wine spilled across the floor, and Lyra stumbled backward, slamming hard into a stone pillar. Pain shot through her shoulder. The pouch at her waist burst open, scattering the crushed herbs across the marble. And then she smelled it. Her real scent. Rich, sweet, unmistakably Omega. For the first time in 2 years, it filled the air around her. Lyra froze. Her heart stopped. No. No, 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 please, not here. Servants nearby turned their heads, noses twitching. Alphas across the room paused mid-conversation. The music faltered. Then, at the head table, Darius Kale went completely still. His eyes snapped toward her like a predator locking on its prey. His nostrils flared once, and his expression changed from boredom to shock, then to something fierce and possessive. Before Lyra could move, he stood, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. Conversations stopped. Every gaze followed him as he crossed the hall with long, powerful strides. Lyra backed away, panic clawing at her throat. Not again. Not another alpha. Please, goddess, not again. But it was too late. He stopped inches from her, towering over her trembling form. His voice was low, rough, dangerous. Mine. The word hit her like thunder. Gasps rippled through the hall. The king, unmated for 5 years, had just claimed a servant as his mate. Lyra's heart pounded wildly. No, she whispered, shaking her head. You're mistaken, your majesty. I'm not. He inhaled deeply, and his amber eyes glowed brighter. I'm never mistaken about this. Your scent, it's you. I've been searching for this scent for years. Lyra's voice broke. Please don't. You don't understand. You'll regret it. Darius leaned closer, his tone soft but unyielding. Then make me regret it. She stared up at him, seeing no cruelty there, only certainty. It terrified her more than anger would have. Guards, Darius commanded, never looking away from her. Take her to the east wing. Gently. She's not a prisoner. She's my mate. The hall exploded in murmurs as Lyra was escorted out, trembling so hard she could barely walk. Lyra sat on the edge of a velvet couch in a large chamber she'd never seen before. Everything was too clean, too beautiful, too bright. Her fingers twisted in her lap as she tried to steady her breathing. This can't be happening again. The door opened. Darius entered alone, closing it softly behind him. Up close, he was even more intimidating, tall, built like a warrior, his golden hair falling over his forehead. But his eyes weren't cruel. They were sharp, watchful, almost curious. Are you hurt? He asked. Lyra blinked. What? You hit the pillar when you fell. Does your shoulder hurt? No, I'm fine, she stammered. He nodded once, then stepped closer. You know who I am. Everyone knows who you are, she whispered. Then you know I don't make wild claims. When I said mine, I meant it. Lyra's chest tightened. You don't understand. You can't want me. Can't I? His voice was calm but carried a hint of challenge. I'm not who you think. She swallowed hard. I'm broken. He frowned. Broken how? My scent, she looked down, shame burning her cheeks. Every alpha who's ever scented me said it was wrong. That I smell infertile. I've been rejected 3 times. Darius stared at her for a long moment. 3 times. She nodded, tears stinging her eyes. They all said the same thing. That I can't bear children. That I'm useless as a mate. Even the healers confirmed it. He tilted his head, studying her quietly. You believe them. How could I not? She whispered. The mate bond doesn't lie. If 3 alphas rejected me. Maybe it wasn't the bond that lied, he interrupted softly. Maybe it was them. Lyra blinked, confused. What do you mean? Darius leaned on the table across from her, folding his arms. You think an omega's worth is measured only by breeding? That's what they made you believe. It's how our world works, she said bitterly. Alphas lead, omegas give life. If I can't, then your world is wrong. She looked up sharply. What? He smiled faintly. Do you think I care about what others think? I'm the king. I care about truth. And my truth is simple, you're my mate. Your scent tells me that, the bond tells me that. Nothing else matters. His words should have comforted her, but fear still wrapped around her heart like ice. You'll change your mind, she said softly. They always do. He stepped closer until he was standing right in front of her. Look at me. She did, reluctantly. I am not they, Lyra Vale, he said, his tone low and steady. Do you feel it? The pull between us. It's not weakness. It's rightness. I've felt the mate bond calling to me for 5 years, but I could never find the source. Until now. She shook her head. No, you'll regret this. The council, people will talk. Let them, he cut in. If they have a problem, they can take it up with their king. Lyra stared at him, stunned by his certainty. He spoke as if her years of shame didn't exist. The door opened again. An elderly woman entered, small, sharp-eyed, her hair white as snow. She bowed slightly. Your Majesty, she said. You sent for me? Yes, Elder Nyra. This is Lyra Vale. Darius gestured toward her. I want you to examine her scent signature. Lyra's stomach twisted. Please, don't. It's all right, Nyra said kindly. I won't hurt you, child. Just breathe. The healer inhaled deeply, eyes half closing. For several seconds she said nothing. Then she gasped softly and stepped back. By the moon, she whispered. Your scent, it's not barren at all. It's overpowering. Ancient. Lyra frowned. Ancient. Nyra's eyes glittered. You carry the moon's gift, child. The bloodline of the blessed vessel. Only one is born every few centuries. I don't understand, Lyra said faintly. The others said my scent was wrong. They were wrong because they were weak, Nyra interrupted firmly. Your scent repels unworthy alphas. It challenges them. It says, only the strong may claim me. They mistook that challenge for infertility. Darius smiled slowly. I told you. Lyra's breath caught. So, I'm not broken? Nyra shook her head. You are the opposite of broken. You are selective. Your body chooses only the strongest mate. The others couldn't bear your power. Lyra covered her mouth as tears welled up. Years of shame cracked and fell away like old armor. Darius crouched in front of her, his hand hovering near hers. You've been hiding for too long. Let the truth breathe, Lyra. There's nothing wrong with you. She let out a shaky laugh between tears. You don't even know me. I know enough, he said softly. I know your scent calms my wolf and sets my blood on fire at the same time. I know I've waited my entire life for this feeling. Lyra's throat tightened. You can't just decide that. He smiled, a hint of mischief in his golden eyes. Watch me. For the first time in years, Lyra felt something warm bloom in her chest, hope. Fragile, trembling hope. Nyra bowed. Your Majesty, if I may speak freely. Always, Darius said. This woman's presence will stir the court. Some will call her a curse, others, a blessing. The old prophecies speak of the moon's vessel returning to bear the heirs of light and darkness. Darius's gaze flicked back to Lyra. Prophecies can wait. For now, she needs rest and safety. He looked at Lyra again. You'll stay here, in the East Wing. No one will harm you. No one will call you broken ever again. I can't stay, she whispered. The council will. The council answers to me, he said simply. And I've made my decision. Lyra searched his face for mockery but found only conviction. Why are you doing this? She asked quietly. You don't even know if the prophecy is true. Because I don't care about prophecies, he said. I care about you. Her heartbeat stumbled. You don't even know who I am. Then tell me, he said. Tell me everything. Start from the beginning. And for the first time since her first rejection, Lyra did. She told him everything, the humiliation, the cruel words, the night she ran away. He listened silently, no interruption, no pity, just quiet fury and understanding. When she finished, he stood, eyes dark with anger. They will never touch you again, he said. And if anyone dares call you barren, I'll make them kneel. Lyra blinked up at him, startled by his fierceness. You're safe here, Darius said softly. You don't need to hide anymore. Her voice trembled. What if you're wrong? What if I really can't give you what you need? He smiled gently. Then I'll still have what I want. What's that? She whispered. You, he said simply. That night, as Lyra lay in the soft bed she'd been given, far from the cold servant quarters she once called home, she touched her chest where her heart thudded wildly. For the first time in years, the ache inside her didn't feel like pain. It felt like the beginning of something new. Outside, the full moon shone through the window, bright and watchful, as if the goddess herself were smiling down. Morning sunlight spilled through the tall windows of the east wing. Lyra sat by the window, her hands trembling around a cup of tea she hadn't touched. The events of the night before played again and again in her head: the king's claim, the healer's revelation, the word mate echoing like thunder. She was terrified. What if Elder Naira was wrong? What if the king changed his mind once he saw who she really was: a nobody, a servant, a girl who'd been told she was useless? A knock came at the door. Before she could answer, Darius entered, dressed in black and gold armor, his presence filling the room instantly. "You didn't eat," he said, nodding toward the untouched tray on her table. "I'm not hungry," she murmured. He crossed the room, stopping in front of her. "You'll need your strength, Lyra. The council meets today. They've heard about last night." Her stomach twisted. "They'll hate me. They can hate me instead." His tone was final. "You are my mate. That's not up for debate." "You barely know me," she whispered. "I know enough." He looked out the window. "They've been pressuring me to take a Luna for years. I refused because I never felt the bond. Now that I have, they'll accept it or they'll fall in line." Lyra looked down. "They won't accept me. I'm not like the noble-born Omegas they expected. I don't belong in palaces." Darius turned back to her. "You belong wherever I say you do. And I say you belong beside me." His words made something flutter painfully in her chest. He said it like it was the simplest truth in the world, as if her years of shame meant nothing now. Elder Naira entered quietly, carrying a small leather satchel. "Your Majesty, I brought the scrolls you requested." "Good," Darius said. "Explain them to her." Naira bowed her head. "Child, last night I spoke of the moon's gift. There is more you must know." Lyra nodded uncertainly. The old woman opened one of the scrolls. The parchment glowed faintly in the light. Long ago, the moon goddess blessed one Omega in every few centuries. They were called vessels. Their bodies could hold extraordinary life force strong enough to bear not one, but two alpha heirs. Twin spirits. But such power frightened the world. The last vessel gave birth to twin alphas who destroyed each other fighting for the throne. Lyra's eyes widened. "So the others think it's a curse?" "Yes," Naira said softly. "But power itself is not evil. Only the way it is used. The vessel's scent is selective. It rejects weak mates, only accepting an alpha whose bloodline is strong enough to survive the bond. That is why the others rejected you. They weren't strong enough." Lyra stared at her hands. "So all this time, it wasn't that I was broken. It was that they were too weak to bond with me?" Naira nodded. "Exactly." Darius's voice was low. "They made you believe lies because they couldn't handle the truth." Lyra's eyes filled. "They ruined me. I believed them. I lived like I was a curse." "Then we'll change that," Darius said. "You are no curse, Lyra. You are a blessing. My blessing." A sharp knock interrupted them. A royal guard stepped in, bowing. "Your Majesty, the council is assembled." Darius straightened, his expression hardening. "Tell them I'll arrive shortly." When the guard left, Darius looked back at her. "Stay here until I return. No one enters this room except Naira." "Understood." Lyra nodded. "You're going to defend me, aren't you?" He smiled faintly. "No. I'm going to make them thank the moon goddess for you." The council chamber buzzed with tension. 12 alphas sat around the long marble table, all eyes fixed on the king as he entered. "Your Majesty," said Alpha Morin, the oldest among them, his voice cautious. "We've heard troubling rumors. That you found a mate last night. A servant." Darius took his seat at the head of the table. "Rumor travels fast." "Your Majesty," Morin said again, "if this is true, the people will question your judgment. A king's Luna must be strong, noble, fertile." "She is all three," Darius interrupted sharply. "Stronger than any Omega you've paraded before me. Her scent carries the blood of the moon's vessel." Gasps rippled through the room. "Impossible," one council member muttered. "The vessel line is extinct." Not extinct, Darius said coldly. Hidden. The healer confirmed it. Lyra Vale carries the gift. You will treat her with the respect due to your future Luna. Maureen's face paled. Your Majesty, forgive me, but the old prophesies. I know the prophesies, Darius snapped. They speak of twin alphas born of the moon's vessel, bringing either salvation or ruin. I'm not afraid of old stories. Another counselor leaned forward nervously. But if the prophecy is real, we risk everything. The last twin alphas brought civil war. Darius's gaze swept the room like fire. Then we'll write a different ending. Silence fell. None dared challenge him further. That night, Darius returned to Lyra's chambers. She was sitting by the window again, watching the moon rise. They know, she said quietly. They know, he confirmed. And they're afraid. Of me. He smiled faintly. Of what you represent. Change. Power they can't control. Lyra turned to him. Why aren't you afraid? He stepped closer. Because I've spent my life feeling something missing. Now I know what it was. He reached out, his hand brushing hers gently. It was you. Her breath caught. You don't even know what I'll bring into your life. Maybe not, he admitted. But I'm willing to find out. The next morning, Lyra awoke to the sound of laughter echoing faintly from the gardens below. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then she saw the silk curtains, the golden light, and remembered this was the king's palace, and she was his mate. She got dressed slowly, still unsure if she was dreaming. The clothes laid out for her were soft linen instead of rough servant fabric. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. The door opened, and Elder Naira entered again. Your Majesty requests you join him for breakfast. Lyra's heart raced. Breakfast? With him? Naira smiled knowingly. He insisted. You're his mate now, child. You'll have to get used to that. When Lyra stepped into the sunlit garden, Darius was already waiting at the table. He stood when he saw her, his eyes softening. You look different. Different good or different bad? She asked shyly. Different perfect, he said simply, pulling out a chair for her. Sit. Eat. They ate quietly for a while. The garden was peaceful, filled with the scent of roses and the hum of bees. For the first time in years, Lyra felt almost calm. Tell me about them, Darius said suddenly. About who? The ones who hurt you. Lyra hesitated, then nodded slowly. If he was to understand her, he deserved the truth. The first was named Roan, she began. We were young. When we discovered we were mates, I thought it was fate. But when he scented me fully, his face changed. He said my scent felt heavy, wrong. He rejected me the next day. Darius's hands clenched slightly, but he stayed silent. The second was worse. He was kind at first. Said he didn't care what others thought. But his family convinced him I smelled unfit. He said he couldn't risk an infertile mate. He left me standing in front of everyone. Lyra's voice shook, but she continued. The third made it a show. He announced to both packs that the moon goddess must have made a mistake with me. He called me defective. He laughed while he rejected me. Darius's jaw tightened, eyes blazing with fury. Their names, he said quietly. Tell me their names. Why? So I can remind them what real alphas look like. Lyra gave a weak laugh. You'd start a war. I'd finish one, he said darkly. Her laugh turned into a quiet sob. Darius's anger faded instantly. He moved around the table, kneeling in front of her, taking her trembling hands. You don't have to prove anything to anyone ever again, he said softly. You were never the problem. You were simply waiting for someone strong enough to recognize your worth. Tears streamed down her cheeks. You sound so sure. I am sure. He reached up, wiping a tear away with his thumb. Because I can feel it. Every instinct in me says you're the one. For a long moment, they just looked at each other, her pain meeting his determination, her fear melting under the warmth of his gaze. Then Darius said, I want you to stay here, beside me. Not as a prisoner, not as a servant, but as my equal. I don't know if I can be that, she whispered. You already are, he said. You just don't see it yet. Days passed, and Lyra began to heal in ways she hadn't thought possible. Darius was patient, never rushing her, never demanding more than she could give. Sometimes they walked in the gardens and talked about the stars. Sometimes they sat in silence. But slowly, something gentle grew between them, trust. One evening, as they walked along the palace walls, Darius said quietly, "Do you feel it?" "Feel what?" she asked. "The bond," he said. "It pulls at me constantly. It's like I've been half alive all these years, and now I finally understand what whole feels like." Lyra hesitated. "I feel it too. But it scares me." "Why?" "Because I've felt it before. And it always ended with rejection." He stopped walking and turned to face her. "Then let's end it differently." She blinked up at him. "How?" "By letting the bond complete itself when you choose," he said. "Not when others decide you're worthy." Lyra swallowed hard. "You'd wait for me?" "For as long as it takes." Her eyes filled again. "Why?" Darius smiled faintly. "Because I don't want a Luna who bows. I want one who stands beside me." The words hit her like sunlight after years of darkness. That night, Lyra couldn't sleep. She walked out to the balcony, the moon high above her. The air shimmered faintly, and she thought she heard a whisper in the wind, soft, ancient, familiar. "You were never broken, child," it said. "Only hidden." Lyra closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered to the moon goddess, "for giving me another chance." Behind her, the door opened quietly. Darius stepped out, his voice low. "Talking to the moon?" "Maybe she's listening," Lyra said. He moved beside her, following her gaze upward. "Then tell her something for me." "What?" "Tell her thank you, for bringing me to you." For the first time in a long, long time, Lyra smiled without pain. "You can tell her yourself," she said softly. "I think she already knows." The palace felt different now. Where once it had been cold and filled with whispers, now it carried a strange kind of warmth. Servants no longer dared to gossip loudly about the mysterious Omega in the East Wing, but their curiosity followed Lyra everywhere she went. She didn't meet their eyes. She'd spent too long surviving in silence to know how to handle being noticed. Every morning, Darius visited her. Sometimes he brought breakfast, sometimes he just sat in her sitting room, reading reports while she drank tea beside him in quiet companionship. It was strange, how easily his presence filled a room without suffocating her. His strength didn't crush, it protected. On the 7th morning, he appeared at her door again, wearing plain clothes instead of his usual formal attire. "Come with me," he said. Lyra blinked. "Where?" "You've been locked inside for days. You need air. And I need a walk." "Won't people talk?" "They already are," Darius said dryly. "Let them talk to my guards if they want to know more." He held out his hand. For a long moment, Lyra stared at it, the hand of a king, roughened by sword work but steady and patient. Slowly, she placed her smaller hand in his. His fingers curled gently around hers, warm and grounding. They walked through the palace gardens. The air smelled of roses and wet grass, and sunlight sparkled off the fountains. Darius kept pace with her, never hurrying, never leading. He matched her steps as if he'd been doing it all his life. "Tell me about yourself," he said at last. Lyra frowned slightly. "What do you want to know?" "Not about the rejections. I've heard enough about those. Tell me about you. What makes you happy?" The question caught her off guard. She wasn't sure she remembered what happiness felt like. After a long pause, she said, "I like to read. It was my escape when things were bad. Stories about other worlds where people like me could be heroes." Darius's lips curved. "You are one, Lyra. You just don't see it yet." She smiled faintly, embarrassed. "I also liked tending gardens. When I was still in my pack, I grew herbs. I used to dream of planting something that would survive even the harshest winters." "That explains your calm," he said softly. "You've learned to endure storms." Lyra looked down, blushing. "And you? What do you like, Your Majesty?" "Darius," he corrected. "When it's just us, call me Darius." "Darius, then," she said shyly. "What do you like?" He thought for a moment, then smiled. Peace. It's a rare thing for a king. 4 years, every day was about politics, treaties, and power struggles. But walking here with you, this feels like peace. Lyra's heart skipped. She looked away quickly, pretending to admire the flowers. As they walked deeper into the gardens, the sound of laughter drifted from a group of young nobles near the fountain. When they saw the king with her, their whispers began. Is that her? The servant. She's not even noble-born. Lyra froze, her fingers slipping from Darius's grasp. Maybe we should go back. Let them speak, Darius said firmly, reclaiming her hand. They'll grow tired of their own voices soon enough. But they're your people. They'll think. They'll think what I tell them to think, he said. And I say you're my mate. That's all they need to know. The nobles quickly bowed when they realized he was looking at them. Darius's aura darkened just enough to make them scatter like frightened birds. When they were gone, he looked back at Lyra. You see, no one's opinion matters here but ours. Lyra's chest tightened. You keep saying that like it's simple. It is, he said. You just haven't had the chance to live simply. They reached a shaded part of the garden where an old stone bench sat beneath a willow tree. Darius gestured for her to sit. The sunlight danced through the leaves, painting his face in gold. Lyra, he said quietly, the bond between us, it's strong. I've spent 5 years searching for you. Every time the moon rose, I could feel something missing, like half my soul was lost. When your scent filled that hall, it was like breathing for the first time. She swallowed hard. You talk as if I was fated to fix you. He smiled faintly. Maybe you were fated to remind me I could still feel. She didn't know what to say. His honesty scared her more than cruelty ever had. Cruelty she could survive. Kindness made her want to believe again. They sat in silence for a while, the sound of wind and birds between them. Then Darius turned toward her again. I'm not asking you to accept the bond today. I just want you to stop running from it. Lyra looked at him, eyes glistening. I'm trying, she whispered. But every time I think I can trust it, I remember how much it hurt before. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Then we'll build trust slowly. I'll earn it. She smiled weakly. Kings don't earn. They command. He chuckled. Then I'll be a different kind of king. For the first time in years, she laughed, a small, trembling sound, but real. The sound seemed to surprise both of them. Better, Darius murmured, a hint of satisfaction in his eyes. That's the sound I want to hear more often. Over the next few days, things began to change. The palace staff started bowing to her, addressing her as my lady. She wasn't ready for the title, but Darius insisted on it. When she protested, he said, if you're my mate, you'll be treated like my queen, whether or not you wear the crown yet. Elder Nyra often joined them for meals, teaching Lyra about royal customs, about the duties of a Luna. But she also whispered stories ancient prophesies of the moon's vessels, their power, and the blessings they carried. One night, Nyra said something that lingered in Lyra's mind long after she left. Child, the moon's chosen are never ordinary. You were not made to follow. You were made to guide. Lyra lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering what kind of guide she could ever be. But when she saw Darius the next morning, smiling as though just seeing her made his day brighter, a spark of courage flickered in her chest. Maybe she wasn't broken after all. Maybe she was just becoming. The night of the mating ceremony arrived sooner than Lyra expected. It was a royal event, small by palace standards but grand by her own. The hall was filled with glowing candles and silver drapes that shimmered under moonlight. Darius wore ceremonial armor lined in gold. She wore a white gown so soft it felt unreal. Elder Nyra stood before them, holding a bowl of moon water and a silver dagger. The crowd was silent. Everyone had heard the rumors. The king's mate was a servant, an omega with a strange scent. Some said she was a curse. Others whispered she was the moon's chosen. Lyra's hands shook, but Darius caught them in his. Breathe, he murmured. She looked up at him. His eyes were calm, full of unwavering trust. I'm not afraid of them, she whispered. Only of disappointing you. You could never do that, he said. You've already changed everything. Naira raised her hands. Under the gaze of the moon goddess, the bond shall be sealed. Do you, Darius Kale, accept Lyra Vale as your fated mate? I do, he said, voice steady as stone. And do you, Lyra Vale, accept Darius Kale as yours? Lyra took a deep breath. I do. Naira nodded. Then let the bond complete. She cut their palms with the dagger and pressed them together over the bowl of moon water. The moment their blood mixed, light exploded around them, bright, silver, alive. Gasps filled the hall. The glow wrapped around Lyra like fire and water combined, rising in spirals that reached the ceiling. Her body trembled, heat flooding her veins. The light pulsed from her skin, brighter, stronger, until she cried out, not in pain but in overwhelming energy. The bond flared between them, and the world tilted. Darius's voice reached her through the storm. Lyra, what's happening? Naira's eyes widened in awe. The gift, it's awakening. The air vibrated. Lyra's vision blurred. She saw shapes within the light, two tiny flickers, like twin flames dancing in her chest. She felt her heartbeat multiply, her strength double, as if life itself were echoing through her blood. Then, as suddenly as it began, the light faded. Lyra collapsed into Darius's arms, trembling. The room was silent except for her heavy breaths. Naira bent to check her pulse and smiled faintly. She carries the blessing. The life multiplier has awakened. Darius frowned. What does that mean? It means, Naira said softly, she can multiply life. Energy. Growth. Perhaps even the lives of others. It is the true power of the vessel. Lyra's eyes fluttered open. Multiply, life. Naira nodded. You are not barren, my child. You are abundance itself. Tears filled Lyra's eyes. All the years of pain, the cruel words, the shame, they melted away under the truth that now pulsed through her body. She wasn't broken. She was overflowing. Darius held her close. You see, he whispered. The goddess never made a mistake with you. Lyra smiled weakly through her tears. Then why does my heart feel like it might burst? He brushed a kiss over her forehead. Because it's finally full. That night, after the ceremony, they stood alone on the palace balcony. The moon was enormous, bathing them in pale silver light. Darius stood behind her, arms wrapped around her waist. How do you feel? He murmured. Strange, she admitted. Like everything inside me is alive. I can feel the bond, pulsing like a heartbeat. He smiled against her hair. Good. Now you know what I've felt since the first night I saw you. She turned slightly in his arms. Darius? Yes. What if the prophecy is real? What if I'm meant to bring not peace but destruction? He tightened his hold gently. Then we'll defy destiny together. Lyra looked up at him. You make it sound easy. He met her gaze. It is, when you believe in something stronger than fear. What's stronger than fear? She asked softly. Love, he said simply. Their lips met under the silver glow of the moon. The world seemed to pause around them, and for the first time in centuries, the palace felt blessed. What neither of them saw was the faint shimmer of light that lingered around Lyra's hands, the echo of her gift, already preparing for what was to come. In the weeks that followed, the kingdom buzzed with the news. The king had found his fated mate, and the moon goddess had blessed their bond with a miracle of light. Some called it divine favor, others called it an omen. Lyra didn't care. For the first time in her life, she was free from shame. Every morning, she woke beside the man who had refused to see her as broken. Every night, she felt the warmth of his presence and the strength of the bond between them. But the world outside the palace walls wasn't so easily convinced. Whispers turned into fear, and fear turned into suspicion. The council met in secret, debating the meaning of her power. Old prophecies were read aloud again. When the vessel awakens, the skies shall burn or heal. The twins of shadow and flame will decide the realm's fate. And somewhere deep within Lyra's heart, the faintest flicker of new life had already begun to grow. The days after the mating ceremony were golden. The kingdom glowed with celebration, gifts arrived from every pack, and the people sang songs of blessing beneath the moon. But not everyone was rejoicing. Behind the smiles and polished words, Fear brewed quietly among the noble alphas. They had seen the light that erupted from Lyra during the ceremony. They had felt the power in the air. To some, it was a miracle. To others, it was a warning. Lyra could sense the change. Wherever she walked, the servants bowed too quickly. The guards' eyes lingered too long. Some looked at her with awe, others with quiet dread. One evening, while she stood by the window of her new chambers, she overheard voices in the corridor. Two guards whispered to each other, unaware she was listening. They say she carries the old power. That she'll bring twin heirs. Twin heirs. That hasn't happened in 2 centuries. Aye. And the last time it did, they burned half the kingdom fighting for the crown. So what happens if it happens again? The other guard hesitated. The council won't let it. Their voices faded as they walked away, but the words stayed, cold and sharp in Lyra's chest. The council won't let it. That night, Darius found her sitting on the bed, lost in thought. You didn't eat, he said softly. She looked up, startled. I wasn't hungry. He sat beside her. You're thinking too much again. People are afraid of me, she whispered. I can feel it. They're afraid of what they don't understand, Darius replied. They always are. But fear fades with truth. Lyra frowned. And what if the truth frightens them even more? He reached over and took her hand. Then they'll have to learn to live with fear. You are my queen. You owe them nothing but your existence. She smiled faintly, but worry still clouded her eyes. I heard the guards talking about the twins. About the prophecy. Darius's expression darkened. They've been reading old stories again. But what if they're right? What if my gift really does bring destruction? Then I'll stand between you and whatever comes, he said firmly. You won't face anything alone. His words warmed her, yet a small, uneasy whisper remained in her heart. The power within her was growing stronger each day. Sometimes she could feel it pulsing under her skin, a soft hum that answered to the moonlight. Later that night, she dreamed. She stood in a vast field under a blood-red sky. 2 wolves faced each other across the plain, one dark as shadow, the other glowing with fire. Their snarls shook the ground, and in the distance she saw herself, reaching out, crying for them to stop. But they lunged at each other, and when their bodies collided, the earth cracked open. She woke gasping, her nightdress damp with sweat. Darius stirred beside her. Lyra. She clutched his arm. The prophecy, it's not just words. I saw them. 2 wolves. They were fighting. They'll destroy everything. He pulled her close, soothing her trembling body. It was a dream. No, she whispered. It felt real. He pressed his forehead to hers. Then we'll change that fate together. But when she looked at him, his golden eyes glowed faintly in the dark, and for the first time she wondered if destiny had already started its work. The next morning, Elder Nyra came to her chambers, holding an ancient book bound in cracked leather. You've begun to feel it, haven't you? Nyra asked quietly. Lyra hesitated. The power? Yes. It's stronger every day. Sometimes it frightens me. Nyra opened the book and placed it before her. Inside was a faded painting, an omega surrounded by silver light, 2 glowing infants cradled in her arms. The vessel does not destroy, Nyra said. She reveals. The prophecy is not a curse, but a mirror. The twins represent balance, shadow and flame. They are not born to destroy the world, Lyra. They are born to correct it. Then why does everyone fear them? Because balance demands change, and power fears change most of all. Lyra traced the painting with trembling fingers. I can feel something inside me. Like there's more than one heartbeat. Nyra's eyes softened. Then the goddess has begun her work. The twins are awakening. Lyra stared at her, stunned. I'm pregnant. Nyra nodded slowly. You are. The signs are faint, but the energy is unmistakable. Lyra's mind spun. The words she had been told years ago, you're barren. You'll never bear pups. Crumbled like ash. Her heart filled with both wonder and fear. When Darius entered a few minutes later, he found her sitting in silence, her hands over her stomach. He frowned. What's wrong? Lyra lifted her gaze to him. tears in her eyes. Darius. I think the prophecy's already begun. Darius stood frozen for a long moment, trying to process her words. You're certain? Lyra nodded. Elder Nyra confirmed it. She said she can feel 2 life forces within me. A slow smile spread across his face, warm, disbelieving, awed. Twins. She swallowed hard. You're not afraid? Afraid? He knelt before her, taking her trembling hands. Lyra, this is the greatest blessing the goddess could give. You've given life back to a king who thought his bloodline cursed. But the prophecy. He cut her off gently. Prophecies are warnings, not commands. We'll raise them to love, not to fight. Whatever destiny planned, we'll change it. Lyra wanted to believe him. She wanted to let his faith drown her fear. But deep inside, the dream still haunted her, the 2 wolves tearing at each other under a burning sky. Over the next few weeks, the kingdom buzzed with the news. The queen was carrying twin heirs. Some called it divine, others called it dangerous. Gifts poured into the palace, silver charms, moonstone pendants, prayers written on silk ribbons. Yet the council met in secret, their voices thick with unease. They must not both survive, one elder hissed. 2 heirs divide a throne. Divide a kingdom. If we anger the goddess will understand survival. One must be chosen. But Darius was no fool. He had spies everywhere. He learned of their secret meetings within days. The following evening, he stormed into the council chamber without warning, his presence like thunder. I hear my council plots against my unborn children, he said coldly. Silence fell. The elders shifted nervously under his gaze. No one plots, Your Majesty, Morin stammered. We merely discuss. Discuss ending a life that hasn't even begun. Darius's voice deepened. Let me make something clear. The Queen's safety and the lives she carries are under my protection. If harm befalls her, if even a whisper of treachery reaches me, I will dismantle this council brick by brick. None dared speak after that. That night, Darius found Lyra standing on the balcony again, hands resting on her still flat stomach. The moonlight caught the silver strands of her hair, making her glow like something unearthly. They're afraid of what we're bringing, she said softly. Let them be, Darius replied, moving to stand beside her. Fear is the weapon of the weak. But what if they're right, she whispered. What if one of them, one of our children, is born different? Born with darkness? He turned her to face him. Then we'll love them all the same. Darkness and light aren't enemies, Lyra. They need each other. Her eyes filled. You make it sound so easy. He brushed his thumb along her cheek. Because loving you has taught me that the hardest things are often the most beautiful. She smiled through her tears. You're going to be a wonderful father. He kissed her forehead. And you, the fiercest mother the realm has ever known. Months passed, and Lyra's belly grew. Her power grew too. Flowers bloomed wherever she walked, the palace gardens flourished even through frost. But with that power came visions, brief flashes of fire and shadow, of 2 hearts beating in rhythm, then clashing like storms. One night, she dreamed again. The field returned, but this time, the wolves were closer. She could see their eyes, one blazing gold like Darius's, the other dark silver like her own. They circled each other, growling. Stop, she cried. You're brothers. The shadow wolf turned its head toward her, eyes gleaming. Only one can rule, it said in a voice that echoed inside her mind. Lyra woke screaming. Darius was beside her in an instant, pulling her into his arms. What did you see? He asked. The twins, she whispered. They spoke to me. They're fighting already, Darius. In me. I can feel it. He held her tighter, fear flickering behind his steady gaze. Then I'll find a way to stop it. I swear it. Elder Nyra arrived moments later, drawn by the sound. She examined Lyra, then frowned deeply. The energy in her body is clashing, she said. 2 powerful forces equal but opposite. They're struggling for dominance. Can she be hurt? Darius demanded. Nyra shook her head. Not yet. But if the conflict continues, her body may weaken. We must keep her calm. Balanced. Lyra's hands trembled as she pressed them to her belly. "Please," she whispered. "Don't let them hurt each other." Lyra placed a hand over hers. "Then give them what they lack, my child, unity. Sing to them. Speak to them as one. Let them feel your love before they feel rivalry." Lyra did as she was told. Every night afterward, she sang softly under the moonlight, songs of peace and warmth. Slowly, the restlessness in her womb calmed. The sparks of light she sometimes saw in her dreams began to glow softer, closer together. Darius would watch her from the doorway, heart heavy with both awe and fear. She was glowing now, her skin faintly illuminated whenever moonlight touched her. Sometimes, he thought she looked more goddess than human. One night, he whispered to Elder Nyra, "If the prophecy is true, how do I protect her from what's coming?" Nyra looked at him sadly. "You can't protect her from fate, Your Majesty. You can only love her through it." By the 7th month, Lyra's visions changed again. The field was gone. Instead, she stood before 2 cribs in a silverlit room. Inside, 2 infants slept peacefully, one wrapped in crimson, the other in black. When she reached out to touch them, both opened their eyes. One glowed gold. The other shimmered silver. And both whispered the same word, "Mother." She awoke weeping, but for the first time, her tears were not of fear. They were of hope. When Darius found her gazing at the moon that night, she said quietly, "They're coming soon. And I think they're listening." He wrapped his arms around her, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Then let them hear this. No matter what they are, light, shadow, or both, they are loved." And beneath the full moon, Lyra felt the twins stir, their heartbeats steady and synchronized, as if finally at peace. But outside the palace, storm clouds gathered, dark, heavy, and full of whispers. The council had not accepted defeat. And in the darkness beyond the walls, someone watched the glowing palace with cold, jealous eyes. A shadow moved through the night, muttering under its breath, "The vessel awakens, and with her, the end begins." The air in the palace had changed. Gone was the peace of early pregnancy. In its place lingered a quiet unease that clung to every corridor. Lyra could feel it, the tension, the unspoken fear. It lived in the way the servants lowered their eyes and how the guards' hands hovered near their weapons. The smiles were polite, but the loyalty beneath them had started to crack. Darius did his best to shield her from it, but he couldn't hide everything. Rumors had begun to spread beyond the palace walls, rumors that the queen carried twin spirits, one of light and one of darkness. Some claimed she had bewitched the king, others whispered that she would bring ruin to the land. Lyra knew Darius heard it all. He came to her every night exhausted, his armor still dusted with the scent of battle drills and tension from the council. He smiled for her, but the lines around his eyes deepened each day. One evening, she reached out as he entered their chambers, catching his wrist before he could pass. "Darius," she said softly, "you're fighting too much. I can feel it." He exhaled, his shoulders sagging. "They're restless. The northern packs are questioning my rule. They think the prophecy makes us weak." "Then tell them the truth," she said. "Tell them I'm not a curse." "I've told them that," he said, his voice heavy. "But fear doesn't listen to reason." She hesitated. "And if they come for me?" He turned sharply. "They won't." "You don't know that," she whispered. He crossed the room in 2 long strides and knelt before her, his hand resting over her belly. "If they try, I'll burn the world down to keep you safe. Do you understand?" Tears pricked her eyes. "I don't want a world burned for me. I just want one where our children can live." Darius looked up at her then, and something inside him softened. "Then that's the world I'll build." Later that night, after he had fallen asleep beside her, Lyra sat awake, her hands resting on her stomach. The twins stirred faintly beneath her skin, a gentle flutter that made her heart ache with love. She whispered softly, "You're safe. Both of you. No one will hurt you." As if in answer, the air shimmered faintly around her. For an instant, she thought she saw 2 faint shapes, one glowing red, the other silver, curling together within her. Their energy pulsed gently, then faded. Lyra smiled weakly. "Together," she murmured. "Always together." But the peace didn't last. 2 nights later, a loud crash echoed through the hall. Lyra jerked awake to the sound of shouting. The door burst open, and a palace guard stumbled in, bleeding from a wound on his shoulder. "My queen," he gasped. "There's been an attack, the council chamber." Before he could finish, Darius was already awake, sword in hand. "Stay here," he ordered, his voice sharp and cold. "Darius, wait." Lyra called, struggling to rise. "Don't go alone," but he was already gone. Lyra's heart raced as the guards rushed to seal her chambers. Outside, the sound of steel clashing against steel echoed like thunder. The scent of blood filled the air. She felt a sharp pain ripple through her abdomen, and panic gripped her chest. "No, not now," she whispered, clutching her stomach. "Please, not now." Elder Nyra arrived moments later, drawn by the chaos. Her old eyes widened when she saw the sweat on Lyra's brow. "The twins, they're responding to your fear. You must breathe, child. Breathe." Lyra tried, but another scream tore through her throat. Her power surged without warning. The silver light that once had blessed her now spilled uncontrollably from her skin, rippling through the room. The candles flickered violently. The guards outside the door stumbled back, shielding their eyes. Nyra gripped her shoulders. "You must focus. If you lose control, you'll hurt them." Lyra sobbed, shaking her head. I don't know how." Then, suddenly, she heard them. The same voices from her dreams, two whispers intertwined. "Mother." Her heart stopped. "Who's there?" she whispered aloud. "Don't be afraid." It was the light voice, the calm one, soft as wind. Then another followed, deeper, colder, like fire smoldering in smoke. "They want to take us. Don't let them." Lyra's tears fell freely now. "No one will take you," she whispered. "I swear it." The energy in her body stilled, then slowly retreated. The glow dimmed. The air settled. Elder Nyra exhaled in relief. When Darius finally returned, his sword arm streaked with blood, not his own, he found Lyra pale and trembling but alive. He fell to his knees beside her. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have left you." She reached for him weakly. "What happened?" "The council tried to flee. Two of them led the attack. They wanted to capture you, use you as proof that the prophecy was real. They failed." Her eyes filled with fresh tears. "Darius." He shook his head. "It's over." But both of them knew it wasn't. Something had broken that night: trust, peace, safety. And once broken, those things rarely mended. The next morning, the palace was eerily quiet. The council wing was sealed, and guards patrolled every corner. Darius declared martial order: no one entered or left without his permission. Lyra stood by the balcony, watching soldiers march in formation below. "You can't rule through fear," she said softly. "Fear keeps traitors silent," Darius replied. "It also makes enemies desperate." He sighed, coming to stand beside her. "Then tell me what to do. How do I stop this?" She turned toward him, her eyes tired but fierce. "By showing them what they're afraid to see, the truth. Let them see that this prophecy isn't about destruction. It's about renewal. And how do we prove that?" Lyra placed his hand on her belly. "We start by bringing life into the world, not taking it." The nights grew colder as autumn arrived. The kingdom's fields turned gold, then brown, as harvest season ended. But in the palace, everything waited, every breath, every heartbeat, for one event: the birth of the royal heirs. Elder Nyra prepared for it tirelessly. "The moon aligns with the blood star in 3 nights, she told Darius. "It's an omen. The goddess chooses that hour for their arrival." Darius frowned. "A blood moon? That sounds like ill luck." Nyra shook her head. "Not ill, powerful." The same alignment occurred when the first vessel bore her twins. Lyra listened quietly, trying not to tremble. She could feel the twins moving inside her more than ever, restless and strong. Sometimes she felt heat spreading through her veins, sometimes cold like ice. On the night of the alignment, storm clouds rolled across the sky, turning the moon a deep crimson. The palace torches flickered as thunder rumbled in the distance. Elder Nyra and the royal healers gathered in Lyra's chamber. Darius stood at her side, his hands gripping hers as pain tore through her body. You're doing beautifully, Naira said, though her voice was trembling now. One more breath, my queen. One more. Lyra screamed, light bursting from her skin. The floor beneath her shimmered. Every candle in the palace flared at once. Outside, the storm split open with lightning. And then, crying. The first child's wail echoed through the hall, strong and sharp like fire. Naira smiled, holding up the infant swaddled in crimson cloth. A boy, she said. Strong as his father. But Lyra wasn't done. Her body convulsed again, light flooding the room once more. Another cry followed, the second child, softer but just as alive, wrapped in silver. Naira whispered reverently, the twins. The prophecy fulfilled. Darius stood frozen, staring at them both, one baby with golden eyes and a faint mark of flame on his chest, the other with silver eyes and a pale crescent birthmark on his temple. Lyra reached for them with trembling arms. When they were placed in her embrace, tears streamed down her face. They're perfect. Darius knelt beside her, awe and love etched across his face. They're ours. The crimson moonlight bathed them as the storm outside calmed, as if the heavens themselves had bowed to witness their birth. For a brief moment, everything was peace. But then, one of the palace guards burst through the doors, pale and breathless. Your Majesty, an intruder. The northern banners, they've breached the southern gates. Darius rose, fury flashing across his face. Now? Yes, sire. They march under the symbol of the burning wolf. Lyra's blood went cold. She knew that symbol, the same mark that had haunted her dreams, the one that shimmered on the chest of her firstborn. The room trembled as distant explosions shook the walls. Elder Naira looked at the twins, then at the crimson moon. Her voice broke in a whisper. The war of the prophecy has begun. Darius drew his sword. Then let it find me ready. He turned to Lyra, his expression softening for only a heartbeat. Stay here. No matter what happens, protect them. She gripped his wrist, tears spilling down her face. Promise me you'll come back. He kissed her forehead. Always. And then he was gone into the storm, into the roar of battle, while the Queen of Prophecy clutched her newborns to her chest under the blood-red moon, knowing the world outside would never be the same again. The palace burned. Outside Lyra's chamber, flames licked the walls, and the sound of steel clashing against steel echoed through the corridors. The scent of smoke filled the air, mixing with the faint sweetness of newborns. Lyra clutched her twin sons to her chest, one wrapped in crimson silk, the other in silver, as Elder Naira sealed the chamber doors with protective sigils drawn in moonlight. Stay quiet, child, Naira whispered urgently. They're searching for you. Lyra's heart pounded. Who? The Northern rebels. The Burning Wolf clan. They believe the prophecy says only one of your sons should live, they want to decide which. Lyra's blood went cold. They'll have to go through me first. Outside, a roar echoed, a terrifying sound that shook the glass windows. It wasn't thunder. It was the growl of a wolf in its primal form. Darius. Lyra rushed to the window. Down in the courtyard, under the bleeding sky, she saw him, a golden wolf tearing through enemy lines, his fur slick with blood, his movements a blur of violence and power. Each strike sent flames and bodies flying. The rebels fought like men possessed, chanting a single phrase over and over. Shadow and flame. One must fall. Tears blurred Lyra's vision. Darius, she whispered. Please, come back. Behind her, one of the twins whimpered, the crimson one, the child marked with the faint outline of fire on his chest. A flicker of heat passed through the room, and the nearest candle exploded, melting in a heartbeat. The baby stopped crying, almost soothed by the destruction. Elder Naira's eyes widened. His power is awakening already. Lyra looked at her in panic. He's just a baby. Yes, Naira said grimly, but his blood is not ordinary. The prophecy said one would carry the flame of kings, the other, the shadow of the goddess. She turned to the other infant, sleeping peacefully, silver light pulsing softly from the crescent mark on his temple. The light shimmered against his brother's heat, like moonlight soothing fire. They balance each other, Lyra whispered, realization dawning. One burns, the other heals. Before Naira could respond, the doors shuddered violently. A deep, growling voice shouted from the other side. By order of the Northern Alpha, open in the name of the true prophecy. Lyra's heart froze. They're here. Nyra's eyes flashed with resolve. You must run. I can't leave Darius. You'll be no use to him dead, Nyra snapped. There's a hidden passage behind the mirror. Take the children and go. The door splintered. Lyra turned, clutching both infants to her chest. Nyra pulled down the great mirror on the wall, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling into darkness. Go, child. The goddess will guide your path. What about you? Lyra cried. Nyra smiled softly. My place is here. Buy you time. Before Lyra could protest, the door burst open and armored men stormed in. Nyra raised her hands, chanting words older than time itself. Light erupted from her palms, filling the room with a blinding glow. The men screamed as silver fire consumed them. Lyra ran, her bare feet pounding the cold stone steps, her heart breaking with every echo of battle above. The tunnel was narrow and damp, carved long ago as an escape route for royal blood. She could hear the muffled roar of the fight overhead, the distant growl of her mate, the crackle of burning wood, and the fading chant of rebels calling for death. After what felt like hours, she emerged into the forest behind the palace. The air was thick with ash. She looked back once, the once golden palace now ablaze, the sky above it black and red. Lyra held her sons close. You were born of love, she whispered. Not prophecy. Not fear. Remember that. A rustle in the trees made her spin. A man stepped forward, a soldier, blood on his armor, eyes cold. Queen Lyra, he said. The council ordered your capture. She backed away. Stay back. You and your children are too dangerous to live. Her fear turned to fury. You dare threaten the heirs of the moon goddess? He lunged. But before he could reach her, a shadow burst from the trees, a massive golden wolf slammed into him, snapping bone. Darius. His fur was singed, his eyes wild with rage and pain. The soldier fell lifeless. Darius. Lyra sobbed. He shifted back into his human form, his body covered in blood and soot. Are you hurt? He rasped. No, but Nyra, she stayed behind. She knew what she was doing, he said hoarsely. We need to move. They ran through the forest until they reached a secluded cave hidden by vines. Inside, the air was cool, and the faint sound of running water echoed. Darius collapsed to his knees, exhaustion etched into every line of his body. Lyra laid the babies beside him. They're safe, she whispered. Darius cupped her face with shaking hands. You saved them. You saved us all. Tears welled in her eyes. No. Nyra did. Darius lowered his head, grief flashing in his golden eyes. Then her sacrifice won't be in vain. Outside, the forest glowed faintly red as the palace continued to burn. The world they knew was gone, but the prophecy had just begun. Morning came, pale and cold. Smoke still drifted from the horizon where the palace once stood. Lyra sat at the cave's mouth, nursing her sons while Darius stood watch. His wounds were shallow but his spirit was heavier than she'd ever seen. He turned when she called softly, "Come here." He knelt beside her, his gaze falling on the twins. "They're perfect," he said, his voice quiet but filled with awe. "They're hungry all the time," she murmured with a small smile. "Just like their father." He chuckled weakly, but his eyes soon darkened again. "The rebels are scattered, but the council has fled north. They'll regroup. They won't stop until they've taken you or the children. Then we'll never stop running," Lyra said. "No," he said firmly. "We won't run forever. But for now, we survive." She looked down at the babies, one calm and glowing faintly silver, the other restless, his tiny fists clenching even in sleep. "What will happen to them, Darius?" "The prophecy. Prophecies only have power when we believe them," he interrupted. "We'll raise them to be brothers, not rivals." Lyra smiled sadly. If only the world could believe that too. He brushed his thumb along her cheek. "Let the world believe what it wants. We'll show them the truth." Over the following days, they built a small refuge deep in the forest, a hidden cottage near a river, camouflaged by vines and wildflowers. Lyra used her power to nurture the land, making fruit trees bloom even in the frost. The animals grew tame around her, drawn by her scent of peace. Darius hunted quietly, always alert, always listening for danger. They lived in fragile tranquility. Every night, Lyra sang to the twins, her voice soft and clear beneath the moonlight. The flame-marked child, whom she named Kale, would stir and coo whenever she sang of courage. The silver-eyed one, Aaron, would fall silent and watch her, his eyes wide as if he understood. They grew faster than ordinary infants, stronger, brighter. Their bond was strange but beautiful. When one cried, the other reached out. When one laughed, the other smiled. But even in peace, shadows found them. One evening, as Darius returned from scouting, his face was grim. "They're hunting us," he said. "Not just rebels, hunters from the northern packs. They think killing the twins will balance the prophecy." Lyra's heart sank. "We can't keep hiding forever." "I know," Darius said. "That's why we need allies." "Who would help us now?" she asked bitterly. "They think we're cursed." "Not all of them," he said. "There's one who owes me a debt, the Alpha of the Eastern Plains. He'll give us sanctuary if I can reach him." Lyra's hands tightened on his arm. "You can't go alone." "I have to. They won't stop until they've taken me or the children. If they see you, they'll take all three." Tears filled her eyes. "What if you don't come back?" He smiled faintly. "Then I'll find you again in the next life." He leaned down, kissed her, then kissed both boys. "Keep them safe, Lyra. No matter what happens." And then he was gone. Days passed. The forest grew restless. Lyra could feel it, the distant echoes of pursuit, the tremor of something dark creeping closer. She barely slept, every sense sharpened by fear. Kale's fiery aura sometimes flared in his sleep, while Aaron's silver glow dimmed it, balancing his brother's heat. Then one night, the moon turned full again. Lyra stood outside with the twins in her arms, whispering prayers to the goddess. "Please," she murmured, "protect them. Protect him." A breeze stirred the trees, and a faint whisper seemed to answer. "The vessel stands not to flee, but to rise." Lyra's eyes widened. Rise. And suddenly she understood. Running would never end the prophecy. Hiding would not protect her children. The world feared her power because it did not know her strength. She turned toward the burning horizon and whispered, "If it's war they want, I'll give them a queen." When Darius returned 3 nights later, wounded but alive, he found Lyra waiting at the edge of the clearing. Her hair glowed silver under the moonlight, her eyes steady. Behind her, the air shimmered faintly, the same divine aura that had blessed their mating ceremony. "You've awakened it again," he said softly, awe in his voice. "I had to," she replied. "They're coming, Darius. And this time, I won't hide. I'll fight." He stepped closer. "Fight how?" "With light and shadow," she said simply. She turned toward the twins, sleeping peacefully in their cradle of moonlight. "They are not the end. They are the beginning." Darius looked at her and saw not the frightened servant he had once met, but the embodiment of prophecy itself, queen, vessel, and mother of destiny. The night wind howled through the trees, carrying the scent of war. But in that hidden clearing, under the watchful moon, a new legend began to take root, one of a rejected Omega who became the mother of gods. And far above them, unseen but listening, the moon goddess whispered her final blessing. "Shadow and flame shall not destroy the world. They shall rebuild it." If you felt the chills of Lyra's journey, from a rejected Omega to the mother of twin heirs destined to change the world, then don't just scroll away. Hit that like button to keep her fire burning, subscribe if you crave more stories filled with power, love, and destiny, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next chapter in this epic saga. Drop a comment below. Do you think the twins will save the kingdom, or destroy it? Your thoughts might just shape what happens next.